The first time I saw Thora and August together was at a dinner party hosted by Thora's parents. I had heard August's name mentioned in passing before, but I'd never met him, and my conversations with Thora had been limited to short exchanges. Whenever I was in the same room as her, she would either ignore me or look at me as though she was trying to expel me with her gaze. And every time she looked at me that way, I lingered for longer than I had to. Over the course of that dinner, I noticed the way Thora and August's hands kept finding each other. I don't know why those discreet gestures made such an impression on me. Maybe it was the contrast between the ease with which they chatted to others around the table and the vulnerability with which they touched the back of each other's hands. At one point, I glanced across the table and locked eyes with August, and it felt as violent as if I'd flung my arm across the table and toppled over the wine bottles. August smiled. As he looked away, he disentangled himself from our eye contact without effort. I was left watching him with tender eyes, as if I'd stared at the sun too long. After that first dinner, I started seeing Thora and August in various places around Stockholm, on the lawn outside the National Library, at the outdoor tables of Södermalm restaurants, in line for the nightclub under the Skanstull Bridge. They were always far enough away that I didn't feel obliged to say hi. I wasn't sure if Thora would acknowledge me, and I didn't want to risk embarrassing myself in front of them. A week after the dinner, August sent me a friend request, which both surprised me and made me feel uneasy. I wondered if I'd slipped and liked one of their pictures, and I scrolled through my activity log to make sure I hadn't left such clumsy tracks. Thora, on the other hand, never sent me a friend request, but I studied her page too. They both had carefully chosen profile pictures and cover photos, but neither of them posted regular updates. I accepted August's friend request, and then sat there staring at the screen, waiting for something to happen that might restructure my life. Nothing happened. I saw that I had several friends in common with August, and I wondered if he was the kind of person who indiscriminately added everyone he met. For some reason, that thought depressed me. One day, I saw them at the corner of Sveavägen and Odengarten. My bus was waiting for the light to turn green, and looking out the window, I noticed Thora and August outside a fast food place. Thora was searching in the pocket of her jacket, while August talked and gesticulated as if he was trying to convince her of something. Finally, Thora fished out a pair of sunglasses, but she didn't put them on. She just held them in her hand and looked at August with an amused expression. August stopped talking, seemingly in the middle of a sentence, leaned forward, and kissed her forehead before he took off his hat and put it on her head. There was a gust of wind, and she used her hand to hold the hat in place. When the lights changed, she looked at the street, laughing with one hand still on her head and the other around the hair that blew across her face, and for a moment she looked straight at me through the bus window. I wasn't sure if she recognized me, but in the midst of her laughter there was a small crease between her eyebrows. I resisted the impulse to duck. A few seconds later the bus moved on, and I was tense in my seat with the unpleasant sense of having been caught snooping on a private moment.